For the Detroit Lions, the day their defense gave up over 40 points was symbolic of a devastating series of injuries. It was one of the more difficult days that the squad has seen this season. For the Bills, when they give up 40 points, it's simply Tuesday. I'm gonna get a little sciencey on you. Fascinated by the Atlanta Falcons, scientists across the globe studied the FGF10 and IL-6 genes. These were responsible for key tissues in the throat forming wrong. The Falcons, it was found, are missing the FGF10 gene entirely. What does this mean? It means they're genetically predisposed to choking. So it should come as no surprise what happened after Atlanta pushed its record to 6-3 with 2 wins against a second place 4-5 Tampa Bay team. 4 losses in a row. And a barely there win against a terrible Raiders team, which has the fan base asking, what the Falc is going on? Well, Falcons fans, a missing FGF10 gene, congenital tracheostenosis, aka Falcon throat. Dr. Kirk Cousins is not only struggling to move, he's downright immobile to the point it limits what run plays they could call out of fear that he can't get the handoff right. But rejoice, Atlanta, for there is a savior in the fold, a great big giant Phoenix at the horizon. With 3 weeks left, you'll either see him because the season is over or because the organization finally had the balls to go with their big Phoenix, sit Cousins so he could heal and maybe they managed to win a few. Is Kirk reluctant to step aside, worried that Penix will outperform him and usurp his job? Is the man whose name is actually pronounced Penix so bad in practice that a mortified Falcons organization would rather stick with a statue? Well, whatever's going on, one thing is clear, and that is that I forgot to talk about their opponent, the Raiders, this entire time. Just like Antonio Pierce forgetting to feed his fucking dogs that one time. It never gets old. And naturally, after I record this shit, Atlanta makes the decision to get their hands on their big Phoenix. So Kirk may be supplanted after all. Is there anyone on earth who's surprised that the Jets won the toilet bowl game against Jacksonville? That is a win that's disastrous for their draft stock and it hurts their future, so of course not. I put all my remaining FanDuel money on the Jets winning that game, and I am now 69 cents richer. Nice. What stands out most from the game? Well, with less than 2 minutes left, the Jets scored without taking time off the clock. Again, this is the same fucking mistake they made last week. For once the defense came through though. You got some horribly incompetent teams that pick in the bottom 5 of the draft, but the most incompetent teams, well, they get wins in weeks 15 to 18 against the horribly incompetent teams, pat themselves on the back and wonder where it all went wrong 1, 2, 14 years later when they're still struggling to get talent and still losing games. You know, one thing you can say about Caleb Williams, he takes care of the football. It definitely speaks highly of his ability to learn when he throws interceptions 2 weeks in a row and then spends the rest of the season treating interceptions the way women treat me with my shirt off. Avoid at all costs. Unfortunately for Caleb and the Bears, that cost also means 6 of his last 8 games have been replacement level bad, with losses piling up, no head coach, a complete offensive upheaval on the horizon, and a front office that thinks being called El Stupido all the time is a sign they've gained a bunch of Hispanic fans. I gotta think there's about a dozen head coach candidates pouring over every inch of the Bears' offensive tape. They're drawing up entire offenses suited specifically to Caleb Williams, along with a draft plan to build an offensive line and what's that? Ryan Poles is still there? Yeah, I get the feeling he's going to draft a defensive lineman and then demand the new coach just figure it out with the underperforming O-line. Or he'll grab another defensive head coach that doesn't give a fuck about offense. Ask the Jets about those. They apparently grow on fucking trees. Everything hinges on Caleb Williams and the O-line. Hopefully Poles realizes he needs to give his coach and his quarterback everything they can possibly get on offense this offseason. Otherwise, get ready for another 4 years of misery and failure before moving on to the next. On the flip side, anyone remember when the New York Giants were a massive fraud playoff team that got obliterated in the divisional round? Remember when the league first expanded to a 7th playoff team and the fraud-ass 7 seeds kept getting blown out? Well, I'm not saying the Vikings are the biggest fraud-ass 12-2 team I ever seen in my life. Winning against the schedule so easy it should be part of a preschool curriculum. But what I am saying is get ready to see them get their doors blown off in the playoffs. The Vikings have beaten the Bears twice, Jaguars, Titans, Jets, and Giants. That is 6 out of the 12 wins against the literal bottom feeders of not only the NFL, but quite frankly in all sports. They also have wins against the Colts, 49ers, Cardinals, and the Falcons. Not a single one of those teams has a winning record. Finally, they did have a single good win against the Packers, and they beat up on a mid-injured Texans team that had CJ Stroud get hurt halfway through the game, by the way. So kudos to them, because hey, they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. But my God, this is a very flawed team, especially to be sitting with 12 wins. Well, coming up, they have the mid-Seahawks, the Packers again, and a mortally wounded Lions defense. Whatever they do these 3 weeks, I will be unimpressed and waiting for the shoe to not only drop, but also shatter like Cinderella's glass slipper come playoff time. And just like those 2022 Giants, I have a feeling this year's success might actually hurt their future, as it's going to give a lot of people a misguided notion of where exactly this team stands compared to the upper echelon. Will they make a Daniel Jones-esque mistake with Sam Darnold, or will they temper their contract offer to him with a dose of reality? Maybe they even use that thing called a franchise tag. By the way, the fact Daniel Jones is actually on their roster right now is hilariously ironic. Maybe they grabbed him as a reminder not to make the same stupid-ass decisions that the Giants did. On the topic of reminders, remember last week when we talked about Josh Allen carrying the Bills and head coach Sean McDermott, despite the coach seemingly doing everything to drag the team down to the abyss? Well, after yet another 40-plus point defensive effort by McDermott, all I have to say is, yep. Don't look now, but congratulations might be in order in Denver. Bo Nix is regularly putting up 3+ touchdowns. Their defense is playing great, and they're sending their horse-themed brethren to the glue factory. The difference between these two teams at head coach and quarterback is all this comes down to. But just looking at the score, it is a chasm. One the Colts will never cross as long as Richardson is their quarterback. Double congratulations to the Buccaneers. How the fuck is their offense doing this? I guarantee you, whatever it is that they're doing right, head coach Todd Bowles has not only got nothing to do with it, he probably actively argues and fought against every good key decision that his offensive staff has made. At least his defense showed up for a single week. As we've seen all season, yet another supposed defensive head coach with a terrible defense get carried by an offense. At one point, Odell Beckham versus Mike Evans was an actual debate. Wow, well, that shit got put definitively to bed, didn't it? In a week where Odell got cut by the Dolphins, Evans went off for another 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. You keep expecting the glue and scotch tape holding Evans to come apart, but he keeps chugging along, making it work. What a stud. Am I gonna finish this video on 2 positive notes? Well, why not 3? The Bungles. They won yet another game. If they win all 3 of their remaining games, and the Chargers lose all 3, the Bungles are in the playoffs. What do you mean I'm being a wise ass? What do you mean I know goddamn well all they did was completely butt-fuck their draft position like it's Pulp Fiction? What was that? All they did was beat a horrendous Titans team and a joke Cowboys team? No, but Burrow, 271 yards, 3 touchdowns. They beat Mason Rudolph. It's almost Christmas. That's good. Yeah.